Welcome to Sports Econ 101. For those of you listening to our show for the first time, imagine a few guys sitting around a bar having drinks without the drinks, talking sports and business with you, the audience, listening in. I'm your host, Edward Brown, along with my co-host, well-known sports radio personality, Bruce McGowan, and Vern Glenn of CBS affiliate KPIX-TV in San Francisco. And on this show, we discuss sports from a business perspective. In addition, we're going to ask sports trivia questions, where we're giving away vacations to the first three callers with the correct answer. Our phone number is 888-660-4495. Write that number down, 888-660-4495, because you're going to use that number to answer the trivia questions for 3 vacations given away during each commercial break. That's right, we're giving away 9 vacations during this show. Now, the vacations are not sponsored by the radio station, but by Lighthouse Resort and Marina, which is located 1 hour northeast of San Francisco. The vacations are free. Their only request, a $75 cleaning fee to cover housekeeping expenses. Their website is lighthouseforfun.com. Today's trivia theme is miscellaneous sports questions. And today we're going to have a special guest, Noah Jackson, who's a baseball scout. We're going to talk about some of the biggest draft busts and steals. We'll also talk about athletes who gave up money because they didn't feel they deserved it. Try to touch on Jeremy Affeldt, who had been a good guy by finding a $500,000 error and giving it back. What a guy. How about some of the biggest baseball errors in history? Worst contracts in history, and also steroids. Is it worth it? Compare Melky Cabrera with someone like Andy Pettitte, and we'll see the difference between the two. And you are listening to Sports Econ 101, which is sponsored by IRA Services Trust Company, providing self-directed retirement accounts with more choices, diversification, and among the lowest fees in the industry. I personally use them to hold my diversified IRA. Check them out at iraservices.com. And don't touch that dial because you're listening to Sports Econ 101, and we'll be right back. Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with my co-host, Vern Glenn. And
Hello, America.
And Bruce McGowan.
Hi.
That's a lot of that guy. Okay, and we are in the studio here with Noah Jackson, who is, or was, a baseball scout. And one of the things we want to talk to him about is, one of the questions I asked before you guys chimed in here was about how bloodlines, how important they are. Like, Barry Bonds for Bobby Bonds, and more recently, we all know the Venable family. So Noah, take it away. How important is that?
Yeah, I think it's very important, actually, what you see. Just in the time that I was scouting for the San Diego Padres, we saw another local family, the Dunstons.
Oh, yeah.
Sean Dunston Jr. and his son getting drafted by the Cubs. In addition to that, I was able to, 2 years ago, sign a young man by the name of Joe Ross, whose older brother, Tyson Ross, was originally with the A's and is now with the Padres.
Wow.
So Joe is also minor leagues with the Padres now. So
All 6'6" of them.
exactly. That's why he wore 66 to symbolize that for the A's.
Right.
So you see it a lot, and I think that it's a good place to start. It's a strong gene pool, and you work from there. So bloodlines are always important to take a look, no matter what sport they end up playing.
Speaking of talent and gene pool, how about Sylvester Jackson and Noah
There
Jackson?
you go.
Huh?
You got a lot of that.
Got to give respect, man.
Yes, and for those that don't know, Sylvester was a very prominent local sportscaster who worked with KRE, who also worked on the Oakland A's shows. And I was flashing on just seeing Noah on Facebook the other day. Oh my God, I remember his dad so well because he used to hang out at the ballpark and was at the A's games and traveled with the A's on the road during postseason. And we have fond memories of him. I can't believe he's been gone for 21 years.
Unbelievable. And I can remember my first few years here in the market, and in fact, I told Noah's mom, Marilyn, all the time, I signed autographs for Sylvester because people thought I was him.
Okay.
I got tired of saying I'm not that guy. That's why I just signed anyway.
Let's see here. I wanted to get into some of the more interesting draft busts and steals. Okay, so from a steal standpoint, how about let's see. No, let me go back. Let's actually go for the ones that are busts. Steve Chilcott. Anyone remember him?
I remember that. I remember the name and I remember the talk about him, but I remember he didn't go very far, unfortunately. I think he had some kind of injury problem, or.
Yeah, and who was the gentleman who was in competition with him?
That I don't remember.
That's Reggie Jackson.
Wow.
So who would you rather have on that one?
Wow.
Yeah, that's the difficult. In the baseball world in drafts, it's just the ultimate crapshoot. You don't even know what you're going to get half the time. And now what you see more and more is it's really a business for these owners. So they're just trying to manage risk and take the least risky player. And sometimes they don't do the one thing that you always need to do, which is if I'm on the schoolyard, I just take the best player that's there. I don't worry about all the other risks. I just take the best guy available. And so you see a lot of these teams get burned. I know the Padres got burned with Matt Bush, who is now unfortunately incarcerated because he was in a car accident last year.
Oh,
So
boy.
you see it a lot, unfortunately.
How about Brian Taylor? Do you guys remember him, a left-hander with the Yankees?
Oh yeah.
He was going to be a great pitcher, and then he got into some kind of fight.
It was a bar fight. He broke his left hand.
Yeah. Never was the same.
Never
Yeah.
was the same.
Yeah.
Never was the same.
Wasn't there a kid from the Little League World Series that was supposed to be like the next coming, and then just for whatever reason it just did not pan out?
Yeah, Sean Burrows. Remember
There
Sean
we go.
Burrows?
Oh, yeah.
And now he's still kicking around somewhere in minor league baseball. But it was rookie of the year with Padres and then fizzled out, and that was it.
Wow.
That was all that was there.
Kind of like a child star in the movies who just can't make the next step. You know.
Right. You get a little taste of the spotlight, but you just
Yeah.
can't sustain it.
How about Billy Bean?
Yeah.
Phenom coming up,
Yeah.
and then got to the big league level and just did not.
It was okay. He wasn't.
No, but I'm telling you. But
he
hey,
didn't
what
match up to
wasn't?
his potential, though.
But wasn't a correct back man? Wasn't he supposed to be like the number one pick? I mean,
he was a first round pick. You know, the problem with baseball is that they're all prospects.
Are you sure he wasn't the number one general manager
He
pick?
might have been. If
No,
there
this
was a-
guy- he said no to a full ride to Stanford to sign with the Mets.
Wow.
Yeah.
What year is that?
Yeah.
Late '80s, maybe.
Late-
No,
yeah,
it was
mid-80s.
mid
Mid-eighties,
'80s.
yeah.
Mid '80s.
Because I was just thinking about, was it right around
Yeah.
the 85?
Right, no, it was
Because he was on the roster. He was on the '89 roster
That's right.
that won the World Series for the A's. Yeah.
Yes, that's right.
That's his postseason success right there, right?
Look at the host. Look at Edward. Look at Edward just looking at me like marveling, like, oh
I
God,
forgot
oh,
about
the
that.
knowledge.
I can forget a few things.
You watching America? Did you see that?
You watching? That's right. Okay, we'll try this one here. Chad Motola, M-O-T-T.
Chad Mettler, yeah.
Mettler, okay.
You gotta have Sean Abner in that same draft, I
Oh,
want to say
yeah.
as well.
Okay,
Is that former Padre? Also,
Yes,
Sean
he's a
Evans?
Padre.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I should have all these Padre questions there. 'Cause he was for the Cincinnati Reds, 1992. Now, who else came out in 1992? Come on.
Ken Griffey Jr.
No,
No.
Derek Jeter.
Derek Jeter. That's
Derek
right.
Jeter.
Derek Jeter.
I think Ken Griffey Jr. was a rookie in 1992, wasn't he? I'm trying to remember. I think he was about that time because I remember talking to him at
92 or 93, right?
Yeah, because I remember talking to him at spring training. He was very leery about doing an interview, and luckily, Tiny Felder was one of his teammates,
Oh,
and I knew
remember that?
and I knew Tiny from the Giants. And Tiny said, "Oh, that's okay. Bruce is a good guy," you know. So I got an interview with Ken Griffey Jr. and he was always nice to me after that. I never tried to curry favor with him, but he was always a good guy.
That's a good example. Ken Griffey Jr. I mean, that guy went all out.
Yeah.
I mean, he ended up getting hurt too many times. And I'm sure as the owner, you're all like, okay, I want you to make those plays, but don't be slamming into the wall.
Well, and his dad was a great player, and the thing was, his dad, unfortunately, I think, kind of influenced him against the media because his dad was a good guy, but he was kind of a hard ass, and Ken Griffey Jr. was a lot easier to go into his dad.
Weren't there a handful of games when they played in the outfield
They did.
together?
Yeah.
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 Absolutely. I think probably the Mariners probably just got the dad just for a novelty. I mean, he was still a decent
Yeah,
player,
yeah.
but not, they didn't have to get him. Okay, I think we talked about this before. Tony Mandrich.
Oh, yeah.
Oh boy.
The amazing bulk in college.
Oh, boy.
Packers. He didn't really do much. He did a little bit better when he got to the Indianapolis Colts. I think last week or whatever we talked about Jamarcus Russell. I mean, that's just.
How about Ryan Leaf?
There we go. That's the next one.
Don't talk to me, all right?
Oh,
Knock
boy.
it off.
That's
Ryan
probably
Leaf.
the biggest bust
Oh,
in the NFL.
and that poor guy's had some problems off the field, hasn't
He has. He was
Yeah.
a high school coach. He got busted for drug use.
Oh.
And
Uh.
it was a complete mess.
Well, I saying he's
Oh.
spending too much time at McDonald's. He's
Yeah.
a balloon over
Oh.
300 pounds.
Oh, jeez.
Was Jamarcus going to get another chance in the NFL here?
He's trying, man.
Yeah,
Are
he's
they going
trying.
to bring him back?
Well, the Raiders aren't.
Well,
But-
I understand the Raiders.
But he is attempting a comeback. He's been training with Jeff Garcia at his quarterback camp.
Which
He's
makes
shaved.
no sense.
He shaved all these pounds. He's
That's what you need to do.
apparently eating correctly.
Good.
So he's
In fairness to Jamarcus, because I covered that team closely, they had a horrible offensive line.
They did.
I mean, there was no protection. They had bad coaching. They just didn't have a good team. And that was the worst Raider team of all time, 2006. The worst. I mean, and we're going back to 1962 when they won of 14 games. They actually had a better team in 62,
See,
I
I
think.
don't think a lot of people pay attention as much as they should with regard to the offensive line.
Of course
I mean,
they
it
don't.
doesn't matter how good a quarterback you are if you don't have a decent offensive line. There's
Well,
nothing you can do. I mean, you
fans
can only
are-
run so much.
Fans are fans for a reason. They want to, find a guy that they can jump all over, and of course, if he's the hero, they put him up on a pedestal. I mean, yeah.
Now,
But Jamarcus also, I mean, there was a lot of other things missing. And
Yeah.
from what I've heard, just the pure discipline and trying to be a leader wasn't his strong point, to say the least.
okay, now this is the reason why I'm not a scout, because I actually was going to choose Greg Oden over Kevin Durant.
Ooh.
And
That's
it's a good thing I'm not on the payroll.
But again, being fair to Greg Oden, it's not a matter of talent or attitude. It's injuries. The poor guy just and those are things that the great unknown. You don't know, if he's going to get hurt or not.
Yeah, how do you
Well, you just look.
go through a physical? But
When
then-
you see that, you almost have to just use your eyes. And when a guy like Greg Oden comes out and he just has old features, as you would say, and it's a heavy body. How many guys in the NBA really come in looking like that and are successful? When you have a young, spry kid like Kevin Durant, who has so much life in his body, and you know that he can take the wear and tear of everyday NBA world.
Okay, guys, we're going to cut to our first commercial break here, and again, the theme is miscellaneous sports questions. All right, what quarterback threw 70 passes in a single game? I think he was the only one, because that's why I have the question here. The first 3 callers with the correct answer win a free 3-day, 2-night stay at the Lighthouse Resort. Their website is lighthouse4fun.com. Call 888-660-4495 to answer this question. What quarterback?
NFL quarterback?
Yes. What quarterback? Well, yeah, we're not talking.
No
No, no.
CFL, no arena.
No American football.
No college.
No Pop Warner 12-year-olds either. Okay,
Okay.
what quarterback threw 70 passes in a single game? 888-660-4495. Make sure you
Through or completed?
Through.
Through.
Yeah, now you
Okay.
couldn't have completed that. Okay, spell out your name and email, one letter at a time. Don't touch that dial because Sports Econ 101 will be right back. Good. All right. It's a good first segment. Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Vernon Glenn and Bruce McGowan, and we're in the studio here with Noah Jackson, who used to be a baseball scout, and we'll get into that a little bit more in just a second here. We're going to answer the trivia question. What quarterback threw 70 passes in a single game? Anybody?
Noah.
Vern,
I'm
no
gonna take-
Dan.
I'm going to take a wild guess
Yes.
and guess Dan Marino.
I'm going to go
No.
with Phillip Rivers.
No.
Jim Kelly.
No. Drew Bledsoe.
Drew
Oh.
Bledsoe.
1994.
Wow.
All right.
I'm probably going to guess 10 times and not come up with that.
So, Noah, being a baseball scout, how much of it is like the movie Trouble with the Curve with Clint Eastwood? Where, but basically, if you didn't see the movie, just tell us basically what is it like?
Yeah, going out and being a baseball scout, the biggest thing first and foremost that you look for obviously is talent, but for what I would always look for is pure athleticism, how easy the motor skills were. So when you see a game and you're just getting a snapshot of a kid, even if he goes 0 for 1, 0 for 2 with a couple walks, you just see how his body moves, how his body acts, how he throws the ball, how he swings the bat, the pure fluidity of the motion. So for me, you have to bottom line trust your eyes. Now, with the analytics of baseball, what it is nowadays, which is a complete game based on all of the mathematical equations that you can control, that is sometimes difficult to portray to your front office. So when I would go out for a game, I would take notes on players, and it kind of went from a big checklist to then just something small and basic where, I knew who I wanted. You have to know who you want. So it's no different than if you're out at a restaurant or a bar and you see a girl in the bar that you like her for a reason.
Sure.
You have to know, make sure you like her.
Well, you also have to kind of see if the guy's going to be a head case, too.
Yeah, and I'm not really overwhelmed by that. For me, a lot of the best players of all time in any sport have been head cases, and that's just the reality of it. If he's good enough, it doesn't much matter. Everybody says, well, hey, we want great teammates, but a great teammate for me is somebody who gets the job done, and then we can figure it out from there.
Yeah, just look at Josh Hamilton
Yeah.
as a classic example. I mean, if he is on, there's no better player in the game. But if he gets off in a bad way,
Well, just think if, like Willie Mays, what he went like 0 for 17 or something. Somebody would have looked at those games and said, this guy's terrible. Don't sign him.
Right, and it's one of those things where you might not like the individual and not picking on him because he is one of my all-time favorite baseball players in Barry Bonds, but you might not have loved him, but there was nothing you could do to deny the talent on the field, so you always wanted him on your team no matter what.
Yeah, he was not going to be ignored at all by his play. So,
Yeah, talent rules, and that's the bottom line thing for me. So as much as everybody wants to worry about on the field, off the field stuff, sometimes the nice guys don't always make you the best.
Do you have to play it close to the vest, Noah? I mean, you like a guy,
That's
but
a good point.
I mean, you're chummy with some of these other scouts. But
Yeah.
you can't let them know, hey, this is the one I really
It's a
want.
game of poker. I mean,
Yeah.
yes and no. There was times in the last 4 or 5 years when I was scouting where I knew if an individual got past one pick that he would be mine, and so you kind of have to play your cards right. So, for example, back when I was able to take Joe Ross in the first round, the 25th overall pick, I knew the Indians who were sitting at the 8th pick, they were going to take him if a young man by the name of Francisco Lindor was off the board. So you kind of go and you kind of talk to the Indian scout and kind of get what his feel is, and be like, oh yeah, we would never take this guy.
Do you ever
just
make
to get
deals
him.
with them? Hey, look,
Off the record, we
okay.
always make pre-draft deals. Everything's always
Yeah.
a deal. It's
Also, you
not-
got to figure that there's going to be some teams, they absolutely need pitching.
Right, but in
otherwise-
baseball, because you're so far away, it's really tough to draft for immediate need since there's such projection in there.
What about the case of, say, like a Mark Appel? And I mean, he had so much fanfare last year coming out of Stanford. Oh, he's going to be the #1 pick. Whatever. Fell all the way to 8, and then decided to come back to Stanford. I guess gamble to kind of increase his draft status.
And the hard part of that is that comes down to one man, and that's Scott Boras. And
Oh,
that's
okay.
the unfortunate reality of it. And now with the Astros and their money-saving mode, they always want to save money, and so they don't necessarily stack their board with best player available. Mark Appel passed the Padres last year, and our front office just wasn't really prepared for him to even be there. I mean, we hadn't even started the conversations with Boras, and with the MLB draft, you have 5 minutes. So if you haven't started the conversation, all of a sudden you're on the clock. It's a little bit too late.
So let me ask you from your personal standpoint, how do you individually feel when you made like a fantastic pick where a guy could go 33rd round or something, and he's a star. Compare that to someone you really thought was really good in Bond.
Yeah, I think the hard part is really with the baseball scouts, because you're with them for so long, you have the tendency to really fall in love with these kids and get to know these kids personally. The majority of scouts all sit down and have home visits, so you get to know their parents, you get to know their families, you get to know the ins and outs of the kid. And there's a lot of time invested. I think some of the times the harder ones are the ones you don't get, or who are just taken just in front of you. You never had that chance to draft that kid because you've had so much dialogue with him for all this time, and now it's gone.
Well, you make a good point because baseball is so much different. When you're out of college for football, boom, you're there. Baseball usually, single A, double A, triple A. I mean, it could be years before they actually.
Unless you're somebody like a Will Clark who just jumps right up there.
Right.
That doesn't happen too often.
No, it doesn't. I mean, the last couple of guys who did it, you have your Xavier Nady and Mike Leake, those individuals who were able to do that. Those are your extremely polished college players. I mean, right now, even what Vern was saying, Mark Appel is probably the best pitcher on 2 or 3 major league staffs right now in college.
Wow.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Absolutely.
How about your godfather, Dusty Baker? Have you when you guys get together, you guys talk certain
Yeah,
players?
We love to talk baseball, but I think the biggest thing that stands out is the lack of instruction that a lot of these players get now, and how drastically different the game is from high school to college to Major League Baseball, and how nothing is fluid. I mean, you have all these different systems in college basketball and college football, but the general dynamics and schemes of it are all the same. In baseball, you might as well be playing a different sport when you're playing college baseball. It has nothing to do with the Major League game whatsoever.
I got
Wow.
a quick question for you here too. How does a guy like a Mike Piazza, for instance, who was drafted, I guess, as a favorite, Tommy Lasorda, the relative, and he was drafted like in the 30th or 40th.
The
62nd
round.
They don't even have 62 rounds.
Yeah, and he becomes a star. But how does that happen? Is that just one of those? I mean,
Or is it
How
just
did-
work ethic by
It's,
Piazza?
it's a lot of work ethic, but it's
Yeah.
also you're projecting. I mean, going back into the Greg Oden, you have these 17, 18-year-old kids. You don't know what they're going to look like at 22, 23. You have to make an educated guess.
Yeah.
And some of them, I mean, we all know, for me, it's like the biggest kid in Little League never, ever pans out because he's already hit his growth spurt and he's 12. By the time he gets to 16, he might not even be playing on his high school team anymore. So just the different ways that kids grow and mature, it's a crapshoot with baseball. You don't have to deal with that in football because these are grown men when they come out of college. There's no real guessing about it.
One thing you mentioned when you mentioned about Dusty Baker, it just reminded me that the fans can be so fickle, right? Do you guys remember the game where he was playing for the Dodgers, playing right field, and some guy pours beer on him? He gets all upset looking up the course, right? And then, I don't know how many years later, suddenly he's now the coach, the manager of the Giants, and now he's loved by them. So
Hey.
hated Dodger, but now he's loved.
It's
by the
love-hate,
Giants.
man.
Yeah. Oh yeah, you wear that Dodger blue and you go to Candlestick in the old days. That was like
That was tough.
That was a war out there.
Yeah.
Do you guys remember the Kevin Mitchell story where they were coming up from L.A. and because Mitchell was a little bit involved with some of the ruffians, so to say,
Oh,
down
yeah,
in L.A.
that's right.
They would always try to get him. They would always those Candlestick bleachers were you had to be tough to be out there.
Kevin was
Tough
a tough.
skin.
He was a tough
Yeah,
character.
Kevin-
He wanted you to know that.
Oh, yeah.
He was in the San Diego area, didn't he?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So here's some notable steals. Good old Joe Montana. He was. It says here he was in the 82nd round.
No,
No,
82nd
no.
pick.
82nd pick, third
Oh,
round.
I'm sorry. He was
Yeah,
picked
Third round.
82nd overall.
Yeah.
Okay. Tom Brady, the
5th round.
199th
Yep.
overall selection. Yeah, that was a mistake. John Stockton, first round, 16th overall. Okay, Kobe Bryant, first round, 13th overall.
And he was traded right away.
Yeah.
How did the
Yeah, well, 'cause he
Hornets
said
feel
he-
about that deal?
Yeah. Well, as I remember, we talked about this before. Kobe said he wouldn't play. He really, except for he wanted to play for the Lakers.
The Warriors could have had Kobe Bryant, but instead
right.
they drafted Todd Fuller. Do you,
Mhm.
do you
I
remember Todd
I
Fuller?
remember the name.
Yeah, because he was the 4.0 GPA smart guy out
Yeah.
of NC State.
That's the guy I want playing basketball. The smartest GPA.
Yeah.
Karl Malone was first round 13th overall, and good old Ricky Henderson was drafted by the Athletics in the 4th round of the '76 draft, and he was the only player in the first 10 rounds drafted by the A's to play in the majors.
Wow. You know what I loved about Ricky? He would get up at the plate and talk to himself, and he would say, "Ricky doesn't like that pitch."
That's right.
Wait, I saw that in
But
Seinfeld.
my favorite Ricky, he's playing for the Padres, I believe. He gets on the team bus, and one of the younger guys, he tries to create a seat for him in front of the bus. He goes, "Hey, Ricky, sit here. You got tenure." And Ricky said, "10-year." Ricky got 15 years.
15 years.
Noah's dad Sylvester knew Ricky pretty
Yeah.
well, didn't he?
And I still actually talk to Ricky. Actually,
Yeah.
one of the best, when you were talking about Ricky getting drafted by the A's, we talked about it just this past year, and he said when he went into spring training and went into minor league camp, he looked at all these other guys. He goes, "Ricky's better than all of you. I don't know why Ricky
Yeah.
wasn't a first round pick."
I remember
And he told
hearing that.
everybody that right away, and everybody looked at him like he was out of his mind, and lo and behold, there he is.
There he is.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny. I remember we had these really good seats, and Sandy Alderson was sitting not too far from us, and Ricky was it's like his last year with the A's, I think, and he catches a foul ball in left field, and even I'm sure when you're actually playing, you're thinking maybe a little differently, but Sandy was thinking the same thing I was, which is because there was a guy on third base, and there was no way that he was ever going to catch the ball and throw the guy out at home. So it was one of those, he really should have just let it go foul. But how does a guy do that? Right? I mean, if you have the ability to catch it, how many times
Which
do you
is
go-
natural instinct. I mean,
Natural
yeah.
instinct to catch it, right? But Sandy Alderson, he was throwing chairs like crazy. 'cause it was
I
very
remember seeing
precise.
Willie McGee was one of the smartest players I ever saw. He'd catch a ball in foul territory with the Giants, and it cost them the game.
Yes, I remember that game.
Yeah.
Okay, and then last one here, Nolan Ryan was selected in the 12th round of the 1965 draft. Yeah, that was a good one. Okay.
That
we
brings me to a quick question. Do we have to?
No,
we're going to
we're
break.
We're going to come to
Okay.
a break. We're going to come back to that question. Okay. Second trivia question. What 1990 championship sporting event attracted a TV audience of over 1 billion people? First 3 callers with correct answer win a free 3-day 2-night stay at the Lighthouse Resort, and it was not the Tiddlywinks Championship, I'll tell you that. Website, lighthouse4fun.com. Call 888-660-4495 to answer this question. What 1990 championship sporting event attracted a TV audience of over 1 billion people? Again, 888-660-4495. Don't touch that dial. Make sure you include your email address. Spell it slowly, and we will be right back.
Had to be boxing, right?
No,
That's a
Super
World
Bowl.
Cup. That's
World
a World
Cup?
Cup.
World Cup or Super Bowl? Yeah.
World Cup.
I was gonna say the
Yeah.
boxing.
You had to go to the World Cup in '94 when it was in at Stanford, right?
You know,
Yep.
I wanted to, but we could only get one credential.
Right.
Head slap, yeah.
They changed the rules. hasn't it?
Yep.
Perfected that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ready? Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Vern Glenn and Bruce McGowan. And we're in the studio here with Noah Jackson. And when we cut to the second commercial break, we asked this trivia question. What 1990 championship sporting event attracted a TV audience of over 1 billion people? Noah, you know the answer.
It's the World Cup.
The World Cup, that is correct. Vern, you wanted to ask Noah a question.
I did. As far as building a team, Billy Beane's whole system of getting guys that get on base, playing the percentages versus, just picking somebody with a wealth of talent in the draft. What's your, I don't know, how does that bounce you off as far as building a team?
For me, it depends what you want with your team, meaning that Billy Beane has had a really successful run of building very good regular season teams. However, in the postseason, they have struggled.
Mm-hmm.
If you look mainly in the postseason, it's won based on pitching and big bats. Now, the A's do have a mix of it on base percentage, but for me, the number one most important stat that gets overlooked in baseball is runs and RBIs, because if you don't score, you can't win. So it goes back to the days on, even speaking about a guy like Barry Bonds, who would walk in a lot of times when he could have gone outside the strike zone and helped out his team by driving in extra runs. Sammy Sosa was a good example of that. He wouldn't walk as much, he would strike out more, but he would actually go outside the strike zone. And even if it was hit a ground ball to second base to get the runner in from third, or even hit a sac fly, he would be willing to do that. So,
Well, the thing that's kind of hard about both those statistics is it depends on guys behind you.
it does, but I mean, you get paid for those pressure moments. And so,
So what I mean is that if you can't get any RBIs unless you hit a home run.
right,
If
well,
nobody's
you're always in
front of you
scoring
doing
position.
well.
If
Yeah.
I'm a power hitter, I'm always in scoring position when I step in the box.
There you go.
Right.
I like that.
Right.
attitude.
One thing also, I think that with the A's, and I'll say this, I think one of the reasons they've struggled in the postseason, especially in the Billy Beane era, is they don't have that experience of playing in the postseason. They don't have the older, savvy veteran guys. You look at the A's in the late 80s, early 90s. That team had Bob Welch and Dave Stewart and Ricky Henderson, and even Canseco and McGuire had some experience. When they got into the early aughts with the guys like Tejada and Giambi, this was their first experience, first time, and I think that counts for something when you get in a tight game. Last year they're facing Justin Verlander, and the veteran, just shutting them down. Again, that's just one aspect of it.
No, absolutely, and I think
Yeah.
that's where it comes in to say that they have some individuals on the team. When you're in a short series, you can almost throw out the numbers, because then a lot of
Sure.
stuff becomes an anomaly. So you have to do the things that aren't going to be seen, which is making sure that you can score that run or drive that runner.
Well, you mentioned Verlander. Look what happened against the Giants in the World
Yeah,
Series.
right.
Okay, we're going to shift a little bit here, and a little sad here. Earlier this month, Deacon Jones died, and he died at 74. He's almost 75, which was his number.
Mhm.
Part of the fearsome foursome with Merlin Olsen and Rosie Greer.
Yep.
But I remember Rosie being with the Kansas City. Oh no, that's Buck Buchanan. Never mind.
And don't forget Lamar Lundy.
Yeah, that's
Guy
right.
Who
He was-
died young. Another guy who died young.
Died
Yeah.
young. Okay. And if you all remember Deacon Jones with the head slap,
That's
he was
right.
the guy who invented it. Then they changed the rules, if I remember.
In fact, and he had all these quarterback sacks before they started
Yes,
taking those
that's right.
stats. They started taking those stats to like 82.
Yeah.
So I think he's he might be third on the list or something like that, or he was way down the list, but he could have been number one.
Well, I'll tell you what, Vern, go back to every game highlight film and count how many sacks he had, and then we'll add them together.
I went to a few
Yeah, I'll
games.
get right on that.
There you go. I was going to say, I went to a few games at Kezar and saw John Brody just get mauled by the
Yeah,
fearsome
yeah.
foursome, and I'm sure that Deacon Jones had his hands on Port Brody a few times.
Last time I saw him was at the Olympic Club in San Francisco, and it was a whole campaign about blood pressure and get your blood pressure checked and all this kind of stuff. He was he was like adamant about that. But he talk about a guy that had so many stories.
Oh,
Yeah, he was
Yeah.
a great storyteller, and he had a wonderful sense of humor.
Yeah.
and a wonderful self-deprecating wit, which you don't see a lot of until usually guys get out of the game. And
Did you see him on The Odd Couple, that one episode?
no,
Oh, that's good. You got to go back to the old. It's a very, very funny episode. I wonder how many guys have ringing ears still because of the head slapping that he did.
Right in the ear hole.
ouch.
Yeah, and he actually coined the term sack. I didn't know that. He's the one who coined it because he said it. Getting those quarterbacks was like putting them, hog tying them, and putting them in a sack.
I always thought of sacking a city, like they sacked Troy. The
that
Greek
would be
sack. I was associated with that, so that's a good one. Okay.
Change subject real fast here. You guys remember reading about Jeremy Affeldt? He returned $500,000
Oh, yeah.
to San Francisco Giants because he noticed a clerical error in the contract.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's a good guy.
That's
Well, and it's not like the Giants needed that $500,000, but I mean, why?
I'll take it.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean,
but
he
no,
could use it more than the Giants could use. Let's put that.
Yeah, I mean, well, it's
that's $500,000 that he doesn't have to claim on his taxes.
That's true.
That's good.
Yeah.
There you
No,
go.
Listen,
What
I'll take the
happened-
$500,000.
What was it,
Taxes.
2 years ago that the Giants had to fire one of their accountants because because they were siphoning off money to the
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah. She
right.
was embezzling money.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Maybe it was this clear.
Yeah.
You don't know.
Yeah, really.
Mm.
Well, the thing is, he's making $6 million a year, which, it's a lot of money. But 500,000 compared to 600,000, $6 million is a big chunk of change.
That's
It's
about
not like-
8% of your
Yeah.
salary.
Yeah, it's not like he's making
Yeah.
like 100 million a year, and he goes,
Yeah.
500,000, sure, give it back.
Right,
That's
right.
still a lot of money.
Yeah.
So
Interesting.
yeah, he discovered in 2010 that he was being overpaid 500,000 because of this error, and yeah, definitely you got to look at those contracts a little bit more carefully.
Well, what's his agent doing anyway?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, come on. His agent's got to be out to lunch or something.
Well, remember he got too much. I mean,
Yeah.
if you shortchange him, then you got to really.
I know, but even so, I mean, the agent could get in trouble for that, couldn't he? I don't know.
Maybe it's more.
no,
It's what's the money manager doing?
Okay.
That's
Oh,
what it is.
exactly. Okay.
Now, do you guys remember a Royals pitcher, Gil Besh?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And he announced, now this is going back to 2011, he announced that he was going to retire from baseball, and in doing so, surrender $12 million that he would have made in 2011.
Wow.
That was
the final year
The
of
back
his
end of that 5-year, $55 million contract.
Wow.
Yeah, exactly. And, it's like,
Imagine walking away from that.
yeah, because all you had to do pretty much is just show up
Mm.
and make that kind of money. But also, he's leaving room for another person, which is really kind of cool. But to walk away from that kind of money is phenomenal.
I wish Andrews Biedrich had done that with the Warriors.
There's a bunch of guys I can name. I wish did that.
Yeah.
And then I don't remember what the pitcher. I thought it was Joaquin Anderhart, but it's not. But there was a pitcher who, at the end of the year, actually gave money back to the organization because he said, "You know what? I didn't deserve it."
Wow.
And I don't remember which pitcher that was. You guys?
I don't remember that one, but I'm sure.
I
there's a
vaguely
story.
remember that storyline, but I cannot remember
Yeah.
the pitcher that did that.
I can name the congressman who, when they felt that they didn't deserve it, paid it back. Zero.
Yeah.
There's never been that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Noah, you now have an organization. Tell us a little bit about it.
Yes, I run an organization called the First Base Foundation, and this is actually our 10-year anniversary. I started this organization after I was done playing minor league baseball, with the emphasis to get more kids to play baseball, especially more minority kids to play baseball. And what I had noticed is that the economics of baseball have completely changed, and even more so now, obviously, in the past 10 years. And I know baseball has touched on it, and the movie 42 with Jackie Robinson has touched on it too, but the minority rate of American-born ball players now is down to 8.5%.
Well, why do you think that is?
A lot.
Is it because baseball? A lot of them go into basketball.
Right, and I think that's just an excuse, to be completely honest. It's because baseball is not as prevalent in schools. It's more difficult to play. You can't just go and play baseball.
Well, you need a field compared to
Right, but
hoops and
I think it's even more basic than that. And the unfortunate reality is, my first experience playing baseball was playing catch with my dad, and that's where a lot of those experiences come from. And in the African American community nowadays, you don't have those type of families that exist. So even in my own backyard, I'll go down to different schools, and kids have never played catch before, and they're in 5th and 6th grade, and that's the American pastime. So if you've never done that, you don't know anything about the game.
Versus the kids who just go down to the playground and just play hoops.
Or when dad goes and plays catch with you. I don't have any kids of my own, but I'll defer to others. But that is one of the biggest things for me growing up. And even though my dad wasn't alive for that many years of my life, that is a poignant point that will always stay with me, is playing catch with my dad as a kid.
Dr. Harry Edwards told me this recently. He said that the big reason is that during the 60s and 50s, the black middle class moved out of the inner cities. And with that, took a lot of the successful people, and unfortunately a lot of the role models left were not as good role models as they had been. That's one of the ironies of American history. And I don't know, he's a sociologist and he's got a doctorate, so I presume that he knows what he's talking about. But he said that's one of the big reasons also why kids don't follow. And also, traveling teams and finding a secure place where the kids are not going to be bothered. They can't go play sandlot baseball like we used to play when we were kids.
Also, how busy the fathers get.
Oh, yeah.
That's going to be in any community. If you're just a successful dad and you're not there all the time because you're traveling.
Yeah, and it's disappointing, but I think it is the most undervalued asset for baseball right now. And everybody says the game's going backwards and there's no athleticism in the game, and that's a direct result because of it. If you do not have the American-born, whether it's Latin or African American player, you lose a lot of that athleticism in your league. And it's just amazing when you see all these kids who are coming out who are just see the freaks of athletes who play basketball and football. Now, you used to always have something like that in baseball as well.
Well, yeah, when you have a bigger pool, like my daughter goes to a private school, and their softball team compared to the bigger pool of a public school, there's no comparison. I mean, the public school is so much better, and so I can see where you have a lot more kids going out from one sport versus another.
Oh, and also 30%, how close to 30% of all major leaguers are not born in this country.
Right. And if you look at,
Yeah.
and Bruce, it's interesting because if you look at the numbers, the failure rate for that is enormous compared to the minority-born players who are taking the Major League Baseball draft. I mean, the majority of Latin American ball players who make it are not your big signing bonus babies, as you would say. They're all guys who, for a long time, the best route was, hey, I'm going to go take $1 million down there and sign as many players as I can get, and then you just hope one or two hit. But the big money guys never ever seem to hit.
Huh,
Interesting.
Okay. We've got a couple of quick minutes left before we get to the last commercial break. So, being a scout here, or former scouts, I should say, the 10 worst contracts in history. And again, this is just this person's opinion. They started off with Grant Hill, 7-year, $93 million contract, which Grant Hill just recently retired.
All
He
right.
had a pretty good career, though.
He did, yeah.
But he was hurt a lot.
But he was
He
injured.
a lot.
Yeah, a lot.
And we,
Yeah.
I think, we're
And he didn't have this dynamic personality. You never read about him getting in trouble. He didn't have any, music videos. He didn't have his
Well, he
posse.
did. Wait. He married Tamia, didn't he?
Oh yes, I take that back. Take that back. That's right.
He wasn't Dennis Rodman.
No.
Yeah.
He didn't. All right, let's put
Even
it.
Dennis Rodman isn't Dennis
I
Rodman.
think Dennis Rodman's from another planet. I really do.
Yeah.
I think
Well,
he's an
but
alien.
he didn't stroll into a club and make it rain. You know what I mean?
Right.
There you go. Then they get into even Rick Pitino, right, for the Boston Celtics.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, $70 million, and he just didn't work out too well.
Better
there.
college coach. Much better.
Yeah, much better.
Yeah.
Which kind of goes back to, you said baseball. College is so much different than pros. Basketball is probably along those lines too.
Title games with Louisville and Kentucky.
That's right. Larry Hughes, remember him?
Oh, yeah.
Cavaliers. He's supposed to be LeBron James' help.
The Warriors had
Warriors
him
for a
while.
cup of coffee.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for a cup of coffee.
He had more tattoos. I think he led the league in tattoos at the time. Now he'd be like average. I think.
Okay, there's a couple more just
Compared to Birdman.
Oh my God.
We'll get into this in another time. Okay, we're gonna cut to another commercial break here.
Tattoos in sports.
Yeah, that's a good one too. Okay, who won? Here's a third trivia question commercial break. Who won Athlete of the Decade honors for the 1960s? The first three callers, correct answer. 3-day, 2-night stay at the Lighthouse Resort. Their website is lighthouse4fun.com. Call 888-660-4495 to answer this question. Who won Athlete of the Decade honors for the 1960s? Make sure to include your name, email address, speak slowly, spell out your email one letter at a time. Don't touch that dial because Sports Econ 101 will have some closing comments. We'll be right back.
Athlete of the
Jim
decade.
Brown
By
or-
who? By what?
Bill Russell.
Had to be USA Today or the Sporting News back then.
Willie Mays.
Could have been.
Valley, I'm telling you. You should see some of his videos on YouTube.
Well,
Good stuff.
Oh yeah, well, I saw someone swimming in that. Cool. Okay, here we go. Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with our co-host, Bruce McCowan and Fern Glenn. These are funny.
What are you laughing about?
Oh, I'm looking at the camera.
Oh,
well,
that's
that's-
yeah.
Sorry,
Okay.
radio audience. He's looking at the camera, giving his salute. Okay, here was our third final trivia question here. Who won Athlete of the Decade honors for the 1960s? And during the commercial break, I heard all kinds of answers.
Bill Russell.
Bill Russell,
I'm going
Willie
Cassius
Mays,
Clay.
Cassius Clay.
I'm going Jim Brown.
Jim Brown. No. Arnold Palmer.
Arnold
Wow.
Palmer. Wow.
Jeez.
Wow.
Never would have
You
guessed.
just all you have to do is pick some lemonade and tea, and there you go.
Oh,
That's
my
Athlete
gosh.
of the Decade.
And speaking of which, I mean, this is the month of June, and I believe it was June 17th, 1994, when he retired. And on that same day, it was O.J. Simpson,
Oh my
the
gosh.
white Ford Bronco.
Game 6 too.
Yeah, it was NBA.
Rockets Knicks.
Rockets Knicks,
Wow.
and then God, there was one other thing that was that. It was a huge day
Arnold
It was a golf event too,
retired
wasn't it?
in 1994.
Yeah.
from competitive golf.
Yeah, he was playing golf in his 50s. I remember doing a post-game Giants talk show that night from Candlestick Park, and we were not watching the Giants game the entire game. We were watching the television with OJ, and that was just surreal. That was just bizarre.
Okay, before getting our
Strange.
thoughts for the day, I just want to finish up really quickly the worst contracts. Michael Vick, unfortunately, $137 million with the Atlanta Falcons. I guess it would have been fine except for the dogfighting thing. And Alex Rodriguez for the Texas Rangers.
$252 million.
Very
10
good.
years.
It's a bargain
That's
nowadays.
it.
Yeah.
Ben Wallace, David Beckham, Jamarcus Russell, of course, we talked about. Okay, here are our thoughts for the day. Amateur boxer Joe Flanagan named his two sons Bob and Weave.
Oh, boy.
Now, it's a good thing he wasn't a golfer because he might have named one of his sons Putz. So that's a good thing.
Could have been George Foreman. Didn't he have like George 1?
Yeah,
George
George,
and George.
6.
Yeah.
All 6 of them. That way,
Yeah.
hey, George, take out the garbage.
Yeah.
At least one of them will be.
I knew somebody named whose last name seriously was Raisin, and they named their kid Brian.
I love that.
Were they Marin County?
Okay,
Yes.
last part here.
Yes.
Okay, and drivers kill more deer than hunters. That's why I always hunt with my car instead of a rifle. Okay, tune in next week to Sports Econ 101. We're going to be discussing sports topics from a business perspective and giving away more vacations for answering sports trivia questions. Thanks for listening. On behalf of our team, I'm your host, Edward Brown. We'll see you next week.
Peace.
So long. And that's it. Oh my goodness. No double session today.
All right.
That's it, guys.
Quick hour there.
No, thank you very
Thank
much.
you very much.
Yeah,
I
it was
appreciate
real
it.
fast.
All right, man.
You guys get a chance to go to Sailors?
Not yet.
We